My name is George Dole. I'm an English teacher in Moscow. I've lived here over 12 years. Before I came here, I lived and worked in Los Angeles as a math teacher full-time and an ESL teacher on the weekend. I met a Russian choreographer in New York 20 years ago, and I moved here 12 years ago. So here I'm primarily an English teacher, teaching when I first came here, corporate clients from large companies here, individual adults that need to know English, test preparation for TOEFL, IELTS, GMAT for graduate school, SAT for undergraduate, SSAT for high school. And primarily now my clients are children from 4 to 17. So this is why I'm doing my video today, because parents want to know how I teach, and it's no secret as to my methodology that I've actually developed over the past 12 years here. So why are they complaining? Well, they're telling me that their children are in classes for 3, 4, 6 months and they can't speak English. Well, that's pretty obvious why, because they're just listening to English passively or reading it, but they're not practicing talking about English. And then you have to practice saying the language to learn how to say it correctly. English has 31 phonetic sounds that are not in Russian. Russian has 40 sounds that are not in English. So if you don't practice saying the language, you really don't understand it and you can't speak it. So it's no mystery why they're not speaking English, because they're not speaking English. How do we get them to speak English? Well, we have to inspire the children to want to speak English. How do we do that? Well, I've developed a method where we talk about something tangible. In this case, for a child or for a boy, or maybe a girl too, we have a car. So I say groups of 3 or 4 sentences to build up a vocabulary of not only words, but the phonetic vocabulary, so they can make the sounds of English, which I correct. Not only do we say the words in English, we say them correctly. So we say them repeatedly until the child can say them correctly. So a group of 3 or 4 sentences in the beginning would be, my friend Igor will play the role of a child, and I would say, car.
Car.
It's a car.
It's a car.
It's a blue car.
It's a blue car.
It's a fast blue car.
It's a fast blue car.
Okay, at this point I would stop and we would practice saying these 3 or 4 sentences repeatedly until the child understands them. And the class after that, we revise the previous class of new material, new vocabulary, new words, new sounds. Because if you don't say the words correctly, you're not understood correctly in whatever language, in this case English. So I would build up I'd add these 3 phrases with 3 more phrases. I would say hood.
Hood.
It's a black hood.
It's a black hood.
It's a big engine.
It's a big engine.
It has white headlights.
It has white headlights.
So now we're building a vocabulary of verbs, of adjectives, color, descriptions, and it's just of something tangible. So once we build up a lot of different groups of 3 or 4 sentences of an item, in this case a car, then I go through the whole range of sentences so the child hears them all, and then I ask the child to say as many of the things as possible. So I would say, for each group of things, I would have the child say the whole group of words together. So getting back to the first set, I said it's a car, it's a blue car, it's a fast blue car, and then I would have the child say those same 4 phrases back to me. So Igor, could you say those 4 phrases back to me, please?
Car, it's a fast car, it's a blue car.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now by saying those phrases back correctly in standard English, then the child has the idea of what they are, they know what the things are, they have adjectives, color, verbs, and now we can play a game. So what is the game? The child will say as many of the items of the car as they remember, because we've practiced, and each beginning 10-15 minutes of the new class, we revise the new items from the previous class. So what I do is I have cards that it's like credit. So each time they exceed the highest number of things they've said before, they can get a prize. So I'll ask Igor to say as many things about the car as he can, as if he was learning them as a child. So, Igor, could you say as many of the phrases as possible as you remember from the car?
Car,
Okay, 1,
it's a car.
2,
It's a little car.
3,
It's a fast car.
4,
It has a hood.
5.
It has a trunk.
Oh, great. So, Igor, this is your new record of sentences of being able to say something about an item. So that's great. So every time the child makes or exceeds the limit from before, it's an incentive to do well. So the child will know that if they have a little bit of attention and match or exceed from the previous record, then they can get some sort of a result and get a prize of some sort, maybe a certificate, maybe candy, maybe something as a reward. So what I aim for in every class is results. It's results oriented, and it's not so hard to do that if you spend some time in the beginning to revise everything, because as the Russians say, repetition is the mother of education. So you can't just learn something once and get it, especially language. You have to revise it multiple times before the child understands it. So the ultimate goal is to have the child be able to say, oh, up to 25 questions about an object, any object, car. We can move on from car to a plane, to things in the kitchen, to a restaurant. And what I do is I really make people talk, because that's really the only way you'll learn a language. If you listen to it, it's passive. When you get involved talking about it, you have to use your throat, you have to coordinate muscles in your larynx, you have to listen to it, you have to feedback sound, you have to think about it, you have to look at the person. So you get more involved when you talk about something in a language than just listening to it, which is just your ears. So the more involved more of your senses you use to understand a language, to learn it, to practice it, the faster you can acquire it. So that's pretty much it. It's no magic. It's not a secret. You have to speak a language to be able to learn a language, and myself included with Russian. And so my objective is really to help Russians be as good, if not better, than native English speakers, because when you understand us better, you hear us better, you hear our sounds, whether we're American or British, you understand us, and you understand us, and you can give the appropriate answer to whatever the question is that we ask you. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to any questions you have for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.